Hi,
Hello.
Scano. Nice to see you. Good afternoon, everyone. Right, it's nice. Today's a beautiful day. The sun actually just started to shine through my window, but I'll stay here because I feel like I need a little bit of something clearing or something. So
you have the sunshine, but we have the rain, a little bit of rain.
Yeah, well, it's all about the balance. We had the rain. Yeah. So thank you for joining us. And Roberta, it's always so nice to see you. Scano, Jody Migasso. My name is Jody Harbour, and I am a co-founder of Grandmother's Voice, just a group of Indigenous grandmas and women that, want to connect people and make space and, be here to support people in their learning journeys and reconnecting with each other and community. And we're here with Roberta Hill, who is has been here for I've gotten to know you since February. We started talking, with the Mush Hole survivors, who's the Mohawk Institute Indian Residential School survivors, a group of survivors from the school that really want to and have been waiting and planning a park around the garden or around the building of the Woodland Cultural Center. And that was really what kind of captivated me when I first met you, Roberta. We did the lives February with some of the survivors. We did a whole week of survivors speaking. Mm-hmm. And, we didn't, I don't know, I think at that time we didn't really realize how needed that was to really make space and a platform to hear the voices of the survivors. And you had said at one point that it was like everyone forgot about you. You did the TRC, you did the interviews, they closed that, they, settled everything. And, and all these organizations existed to support you, but still the voices were not being heard. And so, and then I was like, well, let's just, let's share those voices. Let's try to make a platform. And people showed up.
They did.
And they listened.
They did. And I think that's what it is. It's right across this country now. People are listening. They're waking up. They're hearing our truths, And I think with the TRC, they had their 5 years, but I think the expectation was, we're kind of just right along here and things will settle down. We don't have to do anymore because we're almost to reconciliation, or we're in reconciliation, but how can you reconcile? How can you close this part of it when you haven't had all of the truths? And now we're looking for burial sites of children. So we're not there yet. And I think that's important for people to understand, is that reconciliation means we all have to be truthful. We all have to tell our truths, good or bad, And so there's other parties that need to stand up too, to say what their involvement was in all of this that took place at the residential schools, the horrific things, how did it go on for so long, unnoticed? It's what I would like to have clarified is, who knew about this? Was it that closed? Was it? I can't understand how across this country so much harm and the impacts were so powerful against Indigenous children that nobody would know about it. That's what really bothers me. So I think with the Mush Hole Voices, that gave us that platform to speak our minds, to speak our truths. And yet there's more voices to be heard. And that's why I think it would be good to open up across Canada. I'd like to hear other voices, not just ours. This is only one school, and there's many, many more voices to be heard.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and we'll talk about that too, because you and I spoke this morning saying, several other people have come forward and said, I'd really like to share my story too. So we definitely need to open this up and maybe start campaigning or requesting other schools and organizations, groups of survivors to come and say, hey, people want to hear these stories. People want to come to the platform. And, just kind of going back to what you just said about how do people not know? And I think that's where a lot of the shame comes in from Indigenous or non-Indigenous people who are hearing about this and also believe in the values, like Indigenous people believe that we know. It's like the elders say, tossing a pebble into the water, it, the water ripples, and the effects, it happens. It's like how we speak and what we say and how we do. We know it affects people. It affects generations. It affects the environment. And so, yeah, I think that a lot of what you're saying is true. People, I think, just ignored it. And, a lot of the work that the grandmothers do share is that, and the messages that they share is that, okay, now that we understand this, how we be and live in harmony, we need to acknowledge that, but we also need to find peace, and we need to move forward. And, it's how do we do that? We can't not acknowledge it. So hearing the truth, knowing the truth, we need to now come up with an action plan as the people to move forward. And so we have this dialogue, we've been having that dialogue, like how do we do this? How do people are calling us and saying, what do I do? What can I do? And, we say, like, just show up and watch, share. We know that these stories that the people are sharing are bringing healing to others that don't have a voice yet. There's a lot of learning and truth and healing to do.
Yeah, that really does have an impact on people, for the survivors who can't speak. They're just not in that place where they're safe to do that within themselves. So I would never expect anybody to step forward and go through that trauma again, not unless you're ready for it. And so we can be the voices for them. They'll see what we have experienced. They recognize that in their own residential school experience, lived experience at a residential school. But it's always been up to the government and the churches who were running these residential schools. They're the ones who kept things quiet. They had to have known. I mean, I look at Kamloops even. How could you not be accountable for 215 children? Somebody knew about them. And that's what I'm saying, is that there are voices, other voices that need to be heard, and it would be from the government and the churches. It's not just about one party. We didn't do this to ourselves. So we need to hear from maybe some government people and stuff like that. I would like that. I don't know that they would. But I think it's a time in history, it's no secret anymore. So why not stand up and say, here, and there's all kinds of records on correspondence going back and forth. So there is something there, but it's unfortunate that Canadians were not provided the truth, and that's what, I guess that's propaganda, right? You put out what you want them to hear. And it's done so much damage over 142 years for Six Nations, like for the Mohawk Institute to be open that long and to have that kind of influence, that negative, bad influence, it's just caused so much harm. So we'll recover from it, and I can see a lot of people they will move forward. The younger ones will step up. They're learning, they're hearing about it. So I think there is a good future. I really do. I believe in hope. I believe we can make things change. Like, we can make change happen in a good way. It doesn't have to be bad. We don't have to fight with each other. And it's about moving forward with that good mind, good thoughts in mind. And what can we do about our future? What can we leave the children? And that's important. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And it is about hope and love. And, I think that was what inspired me to, do this with the grandmothers, and sisters and healers and elders that want to spread that love and say, okay, so we're in this space of truth right now, and let's try to support each other while we're learning it. Because I know, we did an event, and I just want to make note, we have to share the story that you just shared with me before we came on about the young ones and their, their voices and their language. So remind me to talk, for you to tell that story. But, the event that we had on September 30th, at Country Heritage Park, we just knew that what we had to do was join like come together and honor, you and the group of survivors who continue to share their stories. And we reached out to some of our community and some organizations. We had some really beautiful partners that came forward and did donations. Bell Canada helped us promote this, and City City of Toronto, Eaton. We had a pharmaceutical company. I'll pull up that name in a bit, but just people that just said, we want to help you honor the survivors and let them know that this day should be for them. And yes, we should be learning, but it shouldn't be that day that we're learning. We should be learning every day from September 30th to September 30th. But on that day, maybe we should honor them. And that's what we did. And we loved it. But I'll tell you, that day, it was full of mixed emotions because we had so many people come that were, they self-identified. I've never told anyone I'm Indigenous, and they showed up at the garden when you guys were there crying, saying, I'm home. I came home. It's time for me to learn about the history of my family. We had stories of people that, in all of the love that was there, people were so angry they cried. I can't believe that this happened. People are just hearing it for the first time. So there was so much emotion, but out of it really came beauty. And so, we came for lunch and we hung out and we shared some stories.
It was an awesome
really
day.
Beautiful.
It really was an awesome day. And you know what? What I heard from my friends, my survivor friends and whatnot, is that they only had good things to say. It was an awesome day, a beautiful day. It was a day of peace. It was a day of gathering together, with people that have, it's the good minds coming together, so I was really, I would say it was the most uplifting day, where you're lifting up those spirits in a good way, and people are happy. They're not afraid. It's just one of those days that will just move along very smoothly. Everybody can gather together. We were well looked after, it was very impressive, because we're not, for me, I'm never used to being treated that way. I'm just not, where people will take an interest. And yet there are a lot of caring people out there. It's just that from my upbringing and whatnot, I'm used to being by myself and doing things for myself. It's hard. It was nice that somebody took the time, like Grandmother's Voice and all the helpers there. You took the time to look after us that day. So that was really special, because that's not something in my world, not normally, like as a younger person. So it was really good. And I have to thank all the sponsors. An amazing day. If they've contributed, if they did contribute, all the sponsors, it was, I'd have to say it's awesome. And we are grateful, very much so, for all the people who helped and all the people who showed up just to listen, and just to walk with us, when we were going around the park in our little people mover thing. And so they walked behind us, not so much behind us, they were walking with us. So, and that was good. That was an awesome day. Yeah, and I've only heard good things. And, one of the good things, and you've got that picture, I hope, that I sent you, is that my sister Dawn and I and Christine, we were all in the Mush hole together. And we ended up in a foster home together with a few other Mush hole kids. So we've got one picture of us, 3 old grandmas together, finally. And it was an awesome day just meeting up with her again, after so many years. It was good.
Yeah, Did you email that to me?
I did. I sent it to you on the phone.
Okay, so I'll see if it's on my cell phone. But we do have pictures that we will share. And you're right. It was I was surprised people just showed up. And I guess that's what's supposed to happen when you have a community gathering and you just tell everyone to come. And people were like, "Should I register?" And we're like, "No, just come." And so the sponsors did, they paid for, helped us pay for a banner that we presented. So I did pull up some pictures, and I'll share the little slides that happened that day. But it was really impactful. And we had some of the youth were there, And some of Indigenous parents our urban Indigenous parents brought their children, and they were like, I know one of them said, they're not that old, the survivors are not that old.
Yes, we are.
The elders that are old, right? But our day was beautiful. We planned to actually shout out to the grandmas and elders and community in Halton that stepped forward. They came, the WHAM women and the GAS women, and these are women that have been advocating, grandmas that have been advocating in our community for since the 80s. They came out and they just were rock stars. They took care of the food, and Sherry and I and our community, our urban Indigenous women and men showed up, and we just got to have fun, and that's what we did. Played music, we drummed, we sang, we ate. We actually as well got to just spend some time together in the healing garden, and so I'll share those pictures too. But it was really truly an honor just to be in the presence, and then for the courage of the survivors that came and still told stories, because people wanted to hear, they wanted to hear, what they did and what they accomplished in their life, even with all the trauma. And it is really remarkable. And I think that that's another thing, Grandmother's Voice is really moving into the place of elevating the voices and, just making that space, for in our communities and in society, for people to just be comfortable in an uncomfortable story or conversation, that it just needs to happen, because if not, we can be frozen in time, with the pain and where we are in society with so much happening. So I'm just going to show you some of these pictures. So we will, let me see here. This is sharing some screenage. Can you see that,
No.
Roberta?
No.
You can't? No? Oh, wait. Oh, that's why. How's that?
Okay, now I can
this?
see it. Yeah. Yep.
Okay. So this was our morning. Remember, you guys came, and it was the survivors and a handful of our community members and sisters that came, and we sang. The garden is back there. Grandmother Renee spoke, and our firekeeper was there. We had a beautiful fire going, and it was really a beautiful time, and sharing how much she always has great stories, Renee,
Yeah.
that brings people
Yep.
together, and she made us laugh. And she spoke about how in this time, we need to come together to support each other, to move forward, and just spoke about community and how important it is, to lift each other up. And then this I put in there because this is in everything that happened that day. We're planning and organizing for all these guests. And one of our good friends, Bethany, and her husband, they came to visit us a couple of months ago, and they came and had this installed in the front of our center in Milton, which was so beautiful that the team came in and put it together, and the center is coming together. And this was when our, the survivors are on the people mover there, the wagon. And this is what, people were waiting for them, waiting to follow and walk with. And this is just some of the people when we first arrived. Many more came, you'll see. There they are. They actually really enjoyed it, eh? The little ride and seeing the children. We had amazing. Look at this little guy in the corner here. Showed up with his eagle feather. He found that eagle feather, and an urban Indigenous youth, a child, and he led our walk, and the women led our walk with song and drumming, and people just kept coming. I don't even know. I want to say over 300 people, which was really great. It was a short, hour and a half walk through the park. And the the fun part. You know, we stopped and created this circle, and the children went into the middle. There were still more people where I was standing to take this picture. There were quite a few people standing out here, but they sang and drummed, and the children were there, and people were so moved. They, you know, they were crying and holding each other, and it was really beautiful. And we walked this path to take a look at this. And so this is what our sponsors helped us create. They thought it was really important, as well as we did, in the elders, to, you know, have a message up. And this sits on this barn. It's 25 feet wide and about 10 feet high, and you can see it like very clearly from the 401 in Tremaine. So if our relatives watching or ever passing by, just take a peek to the south and you'll see that. And you'll see it for a good, even when I was driving the other day, you know, at 110, I saw it long enough to read it, see it, understand it, and, you know, what it said, and you know, heard it. Now, I don't know if you're if I received your message yet. Let me just take a quick peek here of your pictures. I'm gonna see. You must. Maybe it's on my phone. Yeah. Did you send it to my? Well, let's just take a peek. But it really was fun to see. I don't see it, so maybe it's sitting somewhere in this.
It's probably me sending them.
Cloud in the clouds.
Yeah, probably.
But what's really great is I'll hear some people saying hello. But you know, it was really a fulfilling day, and so many people came after and you know, wanted to just, you know how to continue to support the survivors. And, you know, we do talk about the park. It's so important. I think the more that we are, you know, discovering the truths that you know what your group wants to do around the Mush Hole Woodland Cultural Center, it just makes sense to who we are as Indigenous people in the land, you know. And you always talk about, like, okay, so you're bringing people into that space to learn. You know, it's not the most welcoming space. There's a lot of pain in that space, right?
Yeah, but like, you can't let that pain overpower you either, you know. So right. that's part of it. We can't stay back in that dark space where you're hurting all the time. And I think that's more empowering, is if you can step into this park area and be comfortable there, knowing that you will be safe, that there is no harm. Nature will not harm you. Whatever happened at the site there, usually it happened in the building. So to us, we want to offer that space. We want to offer it to everyone to come in, whoever wants to. But it's also, more importantly, it's to remember the children. Remember the children who went through all of this trauma, all of the damage that's been done, all of the children who haven't made it home. And yet we can still gather in peace on that site. You know, we really can. We can learn from this, you know, but walk together. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And so I just added the link at the bottom there, that, you know, I think that this is something that they should do at every area that existed, like the memorials, right? Like set up a memorial park in all of these schools so that we don't forget and that we do remember. But then also there's that gathering space that to me is land back for Indigenous people. That to me just makes sense. So, you know, we've talked about, like, how can we move forward? So this is something that we're looking at continuing our campaign from the garden that we started on, that we gathered in the other day, and really say, hey, if we can create this, then this should be created across the nation to honor our Indigenous relatives that sacrificed, our courageous children, right? Mm-hmm. that sacrificed for us. So it was really a beautiful day, and it brought a lot of awareness. And, you know, we had, like I said, sponsors and people donating. And so, you know, we'll, as usual, you know, as we move forward, continue to support everything that we're doing. There's been some, you know, a lot of ideas and activities, and I think that you'll be hearing more and seeing more from the Mush Hole Voices group, and And just, it's time to keep moving. You've had this dream and vision of the park for like how long? 10 years? 9,
at least
whatever.
at least 10 years. Yes.
Right?
And I think, yeah, it's about 10 years, but it's like people, maybe they didn't take us serious. But I think one of the important points that I would like to make, and that was what you said about Renee, is that when you're trying to lift people up, I would say that survivors from any residential school have walked alone with their memories for so long, so that was why the gathering in Milton there at the park was really important, because we weren't walking alone anymore. We had a lot of support. It took a long time, and most of us did walk alone. We didn't tell our families. We didn't tell anybody what happened. And so now people are listening, they're understanding. So it's really important that we do walk together. We're not alone anymore. We don't have to walk alone anymore. That's big to me, really important. It really is.
And I'd just like to say too, we didn't just bring in and, set you up with food in a wagon ride. We took care of you. Right?
You did.
Put you in a nice hotel. They got you food. We had a nice dinner.
Yeah, I'm telling you, Jody, we were well taken care of in all aspects. We were catered to. We were special. We were treated with respect and honor. And yes, we were well fed, and we really appreciate everything that Grandmother's Voice and all the helpers have done. We really are thankful, and it was a wonderful day. It really was.
Yeah. And really out of it, when we started to talk about this, we don't just do one and done. That's kind of my phrase people like when I say it. We don't want this to be one and done. We didn't do it one time for it to be just one time. We really encourage people, when you do, like Roberta said, when you do find your community of residential school survivors, it's going to grow. We know that this community is going to grow, and it's also going to grow with not just the survivors, but the children and the grandchildren, the intergenerational survivors of this. And so, when we do that, that's, people that say, what do we do? How can we create? How can we help? Or what's the action? The action is creating that space, bringing them into that space, making it safe enough for them, and then bringing them into, because I really feel like as a my own experiences in life, and as a businesswoman, and just as a mom and a woman that does work in community, that space for Indigenous people has been void, and it's our responsibility as people to just make that space, fill that space, and offer whatever we can to honor those people that show up in that space. And that means education, that means support, that means community, that means everything. And it's like, when people, are, coming up, I would say rising from being oppressed, you don't ask them what they need. You provide them what they need, because as human beings, we totally know what somebody needs to be nurtured. And so this is what, I believe is coming from our Urban Indigenous Center in Milton. People are showing up from all areas. It was amazing how far people came. Somebody came from Ottawa. I was like, you must have family here or something. You didn't just pop over. And they were like, no, I made a trip out of coming here. And so, we really honored those people that traveled, because those are the people that came to pray for hope and love. And anyway, it's really amazing to have created this relationship with you. We just want to continue to do this work with the all the organizations that want to support as well. And we're just doing this, right? We're just a bunch of women, grandmas, uncles, aunties, sisters that just want to create something really beautiful, make people feel comfortable. So before we say goodbye, we'll see ya. We don't like to say goodbye. Just, can you tell us the story that you shared with me about the tree donation? Because I feel like that's,
Well, I'll give
It
you a
was
little bit
beautiful.
of background on it. Is that where the park is? The 5 acres is right beside 5 acres right beside the old Mush school. There, it had an apple orchard when I was there, but yet the orchard was forbidden. We weren't allowed to take those apples, and so we had a little. We were invited by Guyana Say here in the Schweigen that are doing the planting, and they grow a lot of things over in their greenhouses there. And so they invited me to come over because they had somebody from, I think it's forestry. They had a few guests there, but it was because they wanted to donate trees to the park, and it was the apple trees. And because as we were beginning the development of the park, we knew the history. The history was always not so good about the apple trees. It was that, well, that's where the fetuses are. When girls were impregnated, they're buried under the apple trees. And then we were never allowed to take those apples. We weren't allowed to go in that orchard because that was like punishment if you took an apple, even if it fell on the ground. And so we had a nice gathering over at Guyana Say, and it was about planting the trees, and that's how they could help, as part of their reconciliation. And I thought that was really good, but we can't plant them right now. But what we did have on the site were students from the Everlasting Tree School, and they are teaching their children the languages, So we're going to have fluent speakers. We're going to have young kids that are learning right from a young age, and they will be speakers. So that's awesome. But what was important about this site was the Mush Hole has a long-standing history of destroying language. Preventing children that entered the Mush Hole, no matter what First Nations you come from, whether it was Cree or anybody else, the languages were wrong. And so you would get smacked or whatever. It just was forbidden. You weren't allowed to speak any Indigenous language. And that was what it was all about. And yet when I was at the school, I had a German supervisor. She was teaching us German songs, And so I thought, years later, you think, how come we couldn't have language there? And yet this lady's teaching us another language, And so that's really what it was about. And I thought, this is important because now when we want to plant those trees, if we can't do it this fall, we'll do it next spring. But we want to invite those young ones back who have their language. And this would be a very special day because you're bringing them back to a site where they have language, but it's a site where languages were destroyed. Language and culture was destroyed. So I think that's pretty awesome. And so when that happens, I'll let you know. It'll be good.
Oh, for sure.
It means so much to me to see that our community is standing up. We will move forward. We will get those languages back. So that's good. It's the young people. They're the future. Yep. So it's a good.
And those. Yeah, I love that school too. It's so beautiful. I love everything about it. And I was there for a weekend retreat one time, and just the energy is so amazing. And just being able to bring people together. And I think that's that's a piece of what grandmothers do as well, right? Is everything that they do is meaningful. It is, there's reason for it. It's the 7 generations. Like, we just don't do something one and done, right? We'll just say that, but there's always a purpose. And so it's like wrapping and bringing, at a closure, really, right? In your vision, what you just had about bringing those children, planting those trees, starting the garden, moving towards healing, and letting people know. And that's hope. Like everything that you just talked about in that story is hope. And, and it's uplifting, and we have a long way to go. But we have, community members that are waking up and wanting to say, I need to do something more. I want to be more involved. And I think we've just been go, keeping up with society, keeping up with changes. We're rushing. And this is just the messages are, we need to stop and reconnect and move forward. So you sent it to my phone, this picture. I'm going to show this picture. Let me see if I can share it. I just emailed it to myself so I can share this picture. It was really beautiful to see you ladies together, and it really makes me all warm and happy and fuzzy inside.
We'll see if it comes up.
Is that it?
No, I haven't seen it. No.
Oh. I'm not that great at. Oh, there it is. I keep doing that.
Well, I'm not great at all at this, but it's coming.
How's that?
It's
Can you see
twirling.
it?
There it is. There's the grandmas. Those are the mush hole grannies. Yes, we were all together as kids there at the mush hole. And then when we left the mush hole, there was 3 boys. There was 3 boys at the first foster home, and they were from the mush hole, and we knew them. And so when we got there, they sent the 3 boys away, and they brought in some girls. Christine was one of them. Then we had Barb from Moravian Town come in, and then we had 2 Blackbird girls that came into the same foster home. So they were all mush hole kids. But Christine, we've kept in touch with. Barb is Dawn's friend. We keep in touch with her. So yeah, the grannies are still there. We're still together. So it was good. It was a good day to see Christine. Yeah.
Yeah, she was lovely, and it was her daughter with her, I think. And
yeah, her daughter.
It really was. It was a beautiful,
it was a good
beautiful
day. It was nice. I just wish we had. What I was just going to say, hopefully by next spring we can have that mush hole gathering, that large gathering, if this COVID would go away, because there's a lot of people that I would like to see again, you know, and hopefully hopefully it'll be good in the spring that we can gather, you know.
Yeah,
nice.
And I think, there are so many people. Actually, there's somebody here asking, just mentioning her grandmother's name was Agnes Kennedy. She had 2 sisters and 2 brothers. You know, and this, thanks, Dawn. Dawn's on. I was just talking throughout here too. You can see that, Roberta, on your right hand side. If you go into comments on the top right, you can read some of these messages.
I don't see comment.
Where is it?
Where is
it? On
the
top right. You know where it says broadcast? On the top right.
No, I don't see
your computer. No, should have a row.
Oh, I see private chat. I see the chat.
Yep. Yeah, but it's not private. It should say comments or something.
Oh, comments is there. Yeah.
Yeah. So you can see people's messages there. But you know, I was trying to stay on track. I wanted to say, I can't remember what you and I wanted to make sure that we talk about. I think what we really wanted to say now, you know, I think everybody's so busy first at this time, especially with all of this new information for many people. I know my phone's been blowing up. Like, you know, can you come and talk? Do you know this? And I think people are not really conscious. I think that they are thinking, oh, so Indigenous people are, you know, they're there and maybe they can tell us, and they continue to ask Indigenous people to educate them and share, you know, their knowledge and share what they're learning. And I think people just have to be very mindful that that time has to be honored, and the knowledge and sharing experiences has to be acknowledged and honored. You know, so we can't continue to ask people that are going through their learning journey and healing journey to do things and educate for free, and that, you know, inviting Indigenous elders out and you know, survivors out to speak and tell stories, it takes up more time and cost than like $100 or, you know, whatever. Like, we have to be mindful of what we're asking people to, you know, Indigenous people to do right now in society. But at the same time, we know that there's, you know, responsibility, you know, to share knowledge, to share experiences so that people can heal. And so I'm just, you know, I guess I'm just saying this just so that if there are people that are watching or that are wanting to learn more, you know, it's okay to ask, you know, Indigenous people, but just be very mindful of, you know, maybe not understanding their journey or understanding how, you know, triggering it could be, you know, just being cautious and conscious and compassionate right now for Indigenous people, because the nations of people, you know, are waking up to understanding how we got to where we are. And and we're learning about the historical traumas that happened to us, and not only us. I believe that our nation realizes that what happened to us and our ancestors and you and the children that attended these schools has, I want to say, like just seeped into community, and our neighbors are dealing with trauma that are that's drug abuse, sex abuse, like all of that stuff. And this goes right back to the beginning, Roberta. How did people not know about this? Oh no, we know now
Somebody
where
knew.
all of this, somebody knew, because it's like ignoring the elephant in the room. You can't ignore it because it affects everything. It affects the space. It suffocates. It ruins communities. And that's exactly what happened when they removed the children from our communities. They removed the love. So I just want to acknowledge that, there's a lot of activity happening, right? What we do it with, it's not just me, the grandmas, every time we want to support community and society and help bring knowledge to people, we always check with them and we say, how can we do things in a good way? And so this is why me as an urban Indigenous woman have aligned myself and it is in community with Indigenous elders and healers, knowledge keepers, is because if I'm bringing culture to my community and bringing it to the people, it's really important to do it in a good way. These are not my teachings. I just want to be a guide to people, to connect people to learning in a good way and in a way that's not just what's the word? Like just kind of off. Like just, what's the word I'm thinking of? Roberta, help me out. You always help me out.
I don't know.
Wild. I'm going to say wild. People get excited when they're learning things. And so, just really keeping us all on track so that we stay good and kind to ourselves and each other. And but anyway, so we, this past Monday was Sisters in Spirit, which was a day to acknowledge missing and murdered Indigenous women and girls, two-spirit, gender diverse relatives. And so, that awareness is coming out, and that again is just one day. And I really believe that nothing is just for one day. That was our Sisters in Spirit vigil. We did ceremony, a small ceremony at Crawford Lake with some of our brothers and grandmothers and sisters, and we prayed. Did you feel it? Did you hear it? Because we sent prayers to everybody, and it was amazing. It was beautiful. But what we do is, we want to start that awareness too, where there's 231 calls to action. What do you know about that? And if you don't know anything, look it up, because it's still affecting our communities. It's still affecting our women and our girls. And, we cannot and should not have our children living in fear that they could go missing because they're a minority or different or anything. So this is a movement, Indigenous movement, I say, a time and space where our Indigenous voices need to be elevated, and we need to do whatever we can to make sure that that people are aware. And so you can, look up those 231 calls for justice under actually Native Women's Association, and you can find out more information about that. If you're in Milton, if you ever visit Crawford Lake, there's a little space there when you enter Crawford Lake, and you can actually take some time and tie a cloth, a red tie around a white pine. And that's there, and to, just to take a minute to offer love, to those missing spirits and women, and also just to, bring that energy to for yourself and love for yourself. And it does radiate. We know that. So Charlene sent us a message. She was with us on the 30th. She's so cute, man. I love her. Nyawa so much for the peaceful getaway on September 30th. I really loved it, and reconnecting with colleagues. And that's really amazing. And Dawn says, we really do live it every day. We are healing, but for a long time it felt like shame. It's not our shame. Thank you for sharing and being a voice for all those that don't have a voice. Nyawa, Dawn, it's this, having this space in this time, even if nobody is watching, Roberta, it's
I'm sure somebody's watching.
Yeah, it says people are watching. So and we'll just be mindful that coming up in November is Treaty Week awareness. So I really do feel like, we have some momentum right now as Indigenous people being able to take up space, share knowledge, and reclaim a lot of, of what was taken from us, and not having to, I guess, be accountable to anybody but ourselves. So well, for taking this time. And again, the link for Mohawk Village Memorial Park is below here. You can go right to their website and donate. There's a lot of initiatives we've been talking about. So, we're getting this organization and these elders excited to do more things, and just share. If everybody watching can just share, get involved, come and be a member on Grandmother's Voice. It's just come and sign up and just be with us. There's not really much of a commitment, but just more of a commitment to yourself to find community and support each other. Nyawa, Dawn, we appreciate you. You good, Roberta? Is there anything?
I was just going to say there's many. Yeah, I was going to say there's many more voices. It's intergenerational. I see these comments here, and there's a lot of impacts. And even some of, like Shelley. Shelley read her poem that she wrote. That's really impactful, because as survivors, when we're growing up, we don't know. We never knew or understood what we were doing to our children, even if it's like not, some were severe impacts, others weren't, but we still had impact on what we learned at the Mush Hole, we passed on. So there's a lot of other voices that need to be heard, not just ours.
That poem from Shelley was so impactful. I can't wait until, her and I can have a conversation about what we do with that poem, because it is, it's an educational piece that's so deep in understanding of intergenerational trauma and intergenerational ways that I read it and I was like, I actually felt healed after she said it. I mean, after I didn't read it, I heard her, and it was, it's really impactful. So let's, watch for that. And hopefully we can, again, elevate her voice, because that's what that's for. That it's for healing other people. Yeah. It's for realizing that you're not alone. As a nation, we've all been affected by this, whether we believe it or not. So it's just time to kind of do that collective healing that the grandmas have been praying for, and our grandpas and uncles have been praying for, because there's been a lot of ceremony and a lot of that for happening for many years. So I think that there's some peace with them knowing that a lot of the prayers that they've been doing and the prophecies that were talked about, we have this opportunity right now as a nation to look at it and deal with it, and then create action to heal together. And that's a fun part of life.
Yeah.
Yes. Creating opportunity for that.
Yeah. I think there's a good future out there. I say. No, I'm just saying there's a good future. We don't have to stay in that really that dark time. That's our past. We're learning to deal with it, but you know what? There's a future for many others, and that's what we got to go forward on, is the future. How can we make things better so that people never go through this, And I think we're heading in the right direction. We're in the right time. And this is the right time in history, it is, to make them changes. It really is. Yeah. And actually, I'm just thinking, about the, creating that bigger platform and opportunity for more survivors and intergenerational survivors to come together and join us in these conversations. There will be a place on the Grandmother's Voice website to come and join and be a part of what Roberta and the group there have been creating by bringing people's voices together. So it is our time, May. Thank you. Mm-hmm. It's our time. Yep, it's our time to reclaim and show up in society in many different ways, and it's all good, right? This is the healing. Yeah. Our culture was the healing that our nation needed, right? So anyway, we can talk forever. I know. All right. Anyway, thank you, Noah, for everyone that joined us, and we'll see you soon. We'll see you again next week.